Ah,
Mm-hmm.
by far one of my favorite things to do. Here we are back after the second Dualistic Unity retreat. What a resounding success. I learned so very much this week. We're going to get started here, but of course I have to go and do a few things in the setting. So I'm going to pass it over to Andrew while I do that. But hell yeah. Welcome, everyone.
Fuck yeah, we are back after a week that felt like so much longer. Holy shit. I'm still like dealing with that, the time aspect of things, among other things that I'm digesting since that retreat. But it like I can't wrap my head around the fact that that was a weekend to a weekend right there. Like it's really, really kind of tripping me out. Like I've been, I think back to like other weeks in my life, that felt like a long time or felt like a short amount of time. And like there's nothing that's compared to that. Like the first retreat, I guess, is the only other time, but it's fucked that was only a week. Like it's crazy. So yeah, it's felt like a very, very long time since we've been on one of these, but I'm very excited to be back because as you may see, Amanda and Mark are here and they were with us for the last week. So I'm excited to just break everything down and talk about what everyone's been through and learned and discuss everything going on in everyone's lives. So happy to be back.
But before we do all that, of course, so we decided during the retreat and before we were kind of entertaining the possibility of a Colorado mini retreat in June. And we posted the tickets for that last night to Patreon because, of course, our tier 3 Patreon supporters get early access. And I'm excited to announce that as of this morning, we were sold out. The Colorado mini retreat is entirely sold out. Very excited about this. We are currently in the process of planning two other things. The first, not the first in terms of order, but the first in terms of priority, is another mini retreat in August 24th to 28th. We're looking at possibly New York State or Vermont. I'm leaning currently towards Vermont. Those tickets are going to be available within the next week or so, and you'll be able to access them through our Patreon page. Tier 3 supporters, again, get early access. I do want to encourage you, if you want to go to one of these, to upgrade because this one went really quickly. That said, of course, this one went really, really quickly. And I figured, well, I'm going to Colorado and there's a lot of weed in Colorado. It almost seems like a shame to fly down there and not sample more of it. So Andrew and I were talking about the possibility of a mini retreat the weekend before the Colorado mini retreat. So this would be the weekend of the 9th, 10th, 11th, and ending on the morning of the 12th at a different location. It's not going to be so game oriented. It's very much going to be just a chance to chill with us as we settle into our new surroundings, as I get used to being in the United States, and as I sample a bunch of weed. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, but it is going to be a smaller and more exclusive group. It's going to happen the weekend before the Colorado group. So this is not guaranteed as yet, but if you are interested, if this is something that does interest you, definitely let us know on the Discord, under the retreat plan section, in the comment section here as we're live streaming. Just let us know if this is something that interests you, because it really is based on how much interest we get. I understand that this is a smaller, more intimate affair, so it's really going to depend on how many people want that kind of environment, because as much as we like these, the big community stuff is fun too. With the momentum that we have right now, I cannot imagine not doing music festivals at some time in the next year. This is going to be great. I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to pass this over to Mark and Amanda, of course, who have been here on the roundtables and are often part of our groups on our Zooms, in our Discord. They're just a big part of our lives, and we're very grateful for it. But they were both at the retreat. And so, Mark, I was wondering if you would like to share some of your thoughts on your experience.
Yeah, I will share some of my thoughts on the experience. Of course, I didn't know what to expect. The week before, I had a lot of trouble sleeping because my mind kept trying to make up things about it. Nothing bad, but just trying to imagine what it was going to be like. But I didn't mind too much because it was kind of fun. But yeah, one thing I will say is some of the things that you both said about it, as far as, the first day or so, people are getting their footing, and then things kind of change, and then just kind of how to possibly expect it to flow, were very accurate. So I appreciate that. The aspect regarding time going so slow was very accurate. It definitely was. I mean, there were days that, even just after the first day, the next day we were like, did we just do that yesterday? Because it really did go so slow. One thing, of course, we're not looking at the time unless it has to do with food most of the time, or a massage. Otherwise, we didn't bother. But I also know that I said this a couple of times, we absolutely wrung every minute out, with our attention and with enjoying every second we were there, despite what we were doing. Even if we were sleeping, just everything was just so nurturing. And so it's hard to think of a word. As you all know, of course, when I got there, I felt like I normally feel. We're working on these things for a long time, as far as, being social and things like that. And I had a lot of thoughts about that. And, as soon as I walked in, I felt what I kind of expected to feel. I want to expect things, but just based on my history. But it passed fairly quickly. It passed more quickly than I thought it would. And just each person that I met, over those first few hours, I would get anxious at first, but I just told myself, we're here for a reason. It's going to be okay. Don't pay any attention to it. I often have, and I've mentioned this a lot there, normally, and, others there related to this as well and stated similar things, in social situations, a lot of times, the longer they go on, the more I want to kind of get off to myself. I can only be, I feel like if I go to something where there's a lot of people, I can only, I'm okay at first, and then, I deal with it. And then slowly, as time goes on, I'm ready to leave. But that, again, was not the case. Every time I was away from everyone, I just wanted to be there with them. It was an opposite feeling I've ever felt. Just wanted to be with everybody, because it was really the very first time that I've been somewhere that I knew that I was not being judged at all. You just felt it. Everyone there, we were all in the same place, but we were all so happy to be there. And none of us, there was just no feeling whatsoever. And that really helped me come to a new conclusion in my head. And basically, although I've been having a lot of, in my view, progress with my thoughts about, social anxiety and those types of things over the last several months, and really feel like I've been, working through those things steadily. When I still had the thoughts, they still popped up. There was nothing in the atmosphere, nothing anywhere from anybody that would lead me to do that, but the thoughts were still there. And that's when I knew, finally 100% knew, that when I think those thoughts, they don't have a basis. They do not at all, because there was nothing I could find there. I can always find a reason why I think so-and-so is talking about me, or so-and-so thinks I'm silly, or so-and-so thinks I look dumb at what I'm doing, or look dumb at the way I look, whatever. But I knew that wasn't the case. 100% knew. And that helped me know that when I think these things out in my normal life, and the routine exchanges that I have, that they're, it's in my head. I'm making the shit up. and and although it was a spectacular environment that isn't necessarily representative of our everyday lives, it still was the fact that I make these things up wherever I'm at, and I just look for a way to support them. And usually I can convince myself there is one. But when you're in somewhere where that's not the case, it, then that helps you really believe that. And I'll have that in my head from now on, when I'm out. That's one of those things I'll remember, because although it'll be more of a challenge, I can live that way every day. And I did things there that I won't, really go into now, but I did things there that I never have ever imagined I would have done, because I just felt free to be myself. I felt free to try things. I felt free to look silly. I felt free to fail and not feel that way. And I've never felt those feelings in my life. And so I went there with an intention. I went there with the intention that I was going to put my, to do my very best to allow myself to be there, to be me, and to just be okay with being there, and try to get, try to take as much as I could, and not what I usually do, which is just go hide all the time. And I was able to do that and more. And I just, I want to thank everybody there. I want to thank you both for arranging it. You were right there with us, and it was amazing as well. The entertainment, the person that gave us our massages, the masseuse. I mean, those that prepared our food, they all were in a similar headspace or very respectful of ours. And and the two that were, the ones that were preparing our food, it felt like they were there with us. I loved them so much as well. I mean, it was like we were all there in it together, and we were. So, of course I could go on and on and on and on and on, but yeah, it was more than I ever could have dreamt. I'm so glad I took this chance to do something I thought I would never do, in addition to all the other things. And I'm just so very appreciative, and thank you so much.
Thank you, man, because I agree. It was all of us working towards it. And it, like with the last retreat, but in a totally different way, it blew my mind to watch how well we could align with one another and be vulnerable and share that experience without having to feel like those walls were necessary. It really is just about you working on yourself, and everybody resonated with that, and we all came together as a result. And that's why having more of these events, it seems so natural. It seems like it's just the right thing to do, because quite frankly, we're starting to see how much benefit there is in just being ourselves with others who recognize that. So no, it was a beautiful opportunity to hang out with you, Mark. I think everybody is noticing the difference in your pace today. And I just want to throw it out there and say one of my favorite experiences this week was walking with you, as well as doing karaoke. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man. I appreciate everything that you brought to the retreat, and that's a tough part of, marketing the retreats, is like they're made by those who are there. You created that retreat. You were that environment. We can, do the behind the scenes stuff, set things up, schedule things and whatnot, but it really does come down to what you want to make of it, what you want to get out of it. And it's an opportunity to see that there is another way to live, a way that we have gotten so far from in our current society that it seems like it's impossible. But even just getting a week of it, a week that, as I said before, seemed like fucking a year, but still, it's just a week, and being able to see that and live in that space. It's not to say that every week is going to be like that, but you can take things from that. And there is plenty from that week that we just had that we can all bring into our day-to-day lives. It really just comes down to being a little bit more attentive to where we're at, and pay a little bit less attention to that voice in our head, because as you said, it's there, whether you can come up with a reason for it to be there or not. And I'll get into this later, but a big realization for me was just how much overlap there is with our experiences, whether it's on, a trip, or just throughout the week, just how much overlap there is. And so it really was eye-opening to me, as much as we talk about, one mind expressed infinitely. It's like we were able to see that mind at work, and there is no, like, you cannot go through that and come out of it being like, oh no, it's just my mind. Like, it's all in my head. So it's almost like we were all helping each other. There's the phrase walking each other home, and it really does feel like that throughout the week. So I appreciate everything you made of it, as well as Amanda, of course, everything you made of it. So now I will pass it over to you, as someone who has experienced both retreats. Just what some of your thoughts were of the most recent one.
I have quite a bit of thoughts. It's been a lot to process since coming back. But first, I just want to mention to Mark that it was absolutely spectacular watching you. Like the whole fucking process. You came in there ready for an adventure because we met in Boston the night before, and our Toronto adventure became a Boston adventure, and then we were in a different city, and it was just fantastic. But I love that you were always ready for the challenge, however it presented itself. And then once we actually got to the retreat, it was so beautiful, Mark, just to watch you transform. We saw differences in your voice, the way that you carried yourself. You were literally jumping for joy because you were so excited to just be whatever you wanted to be, to let yourself feel things so fully. And it was just marvelous. So I just wanted to say thank you for opening up to us. Thank you for being there, because you added so much to that retreat. You know, if it wasn't, you know, we were always taking care of each other, and something as simple as setting the table felt special because we saw the value in just that moment and sharing that simple moment. And it didn't have to be something big and bold and fancy. It was just us, and we were spectacular, you know? So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And all right, so let's get into two retreats. This last retreat was shocking in the best way, because I didn't really know what to expect. And I definitely had a little bit of nerves from the first retreat, because in the first retreat, it was so intense. For us as a group and for me as an individual, it felt really intense. I had some a big moment, but this one, I was kind of apprehensive that might happen again. But then I thought, you know what, fuck it. If it does happen again, like, we're going to handle it the same way we handled the last one. And no matter what happens, you know, I am surrounded by people that are the space I always wished I could live in. And now I get to visit that space. I get to become that space. It's so safe. It's so loving. It's so encouraging. It's so playful. You know, it's not just so serious, or we're not just like monks who just are always peaceful. We're rowdy. We get a little amped up. You know what I mean? So it was just so wonderful to laugh. We laughed so hard at this retreat. And I do think that this group versus the last group, this group was a little more relaxed. I don't know if it was because we had more shared experiences, you know, just like you mentioned, Andrew, or if it was because the group was just slightly on average a little bit older, or if that was a combination. But this group definitely felt more like viewed their identity as a tool, didn't get so caught up in it, but knew how to detach from it in a way without getting caught up. I don't know if that, but it just felt like this group just was more sure of themselves. And so we relaxed way faster than the last group. There's a little more anxiety. And I know that also was because of the fact that it was the first ever retreat. And so that contributed to why we were all a little nervous. And this retreat had a good chunk of, you know, repeats, you know, so it was Steph and you and Ray and myself and Melissa and Celeste. So there was like and Caitlin. So there was like, plus Christina, the arm massage therapist, and Dennis, the guitar player. So like, there were so many constants that were repeating from the first one. And there was a very small group of new ones, but they rolled in like fucking OGs, man. They were spectacular. Some people who had never really participated on Discord, people who had not really tripped too much, and they were naturals, man. I would have never guessed that some of our guests would have been so new to the community, but we blended. We just dissolved into oblivion, man. Time didn't exist. And I love that someone had asked, you know, how much time did it feel for you? I think it was Jazz, because she's always asking brilliant questions. And I answered a year, and she asked me, she's like, why do you say a year? And I said, because of the fullness. You know, in one day, I got the equivalent of the fullness in terms of like what I do with my personal time, how much I play, how much I hike, how much I work out or do things that I like. I felt like I did a month's worth of that on my own days in the one day that we shared. And so it felt like a year of fullness was packed into that week. And that's why it just feels like an eternity since I was in this life. So coming back to it has been not as smooth. You know, it has been smooth, but I've just been like fucking off a little bit more, because I'm like, it's just work, you know, like I can get away with it. And so it's just been so beautiful. And so I'm glad I bought my Colorado ticket. I was, you know, glad I helped encourage a couple of purchases with some of the people at the first and second retreat. And so it is going to be so nice to see you guys. And I'm just so grateful to see where this goes, and just I'm just so grateful and appreciative to be along this ride with you guys. I love you.
We love you too, Amanda. It's really nice to have you involved with all of these community events because, of course, as everybody knows, Amanda is really a big part of everything that we're doing here in Dualistic Unity. She's always organizing things and helping us stay coordinated. And of course, she's very active on the Discord, as is Mark, who is constantly offering us a helping hand. And it really is just about the community. As we learn to grow and shift this discussion and reach more people, it really is just about the community. And I wanted to throw in something very quickly regarding the comment that this retreat was so much more relaxed. I'll say from my perspective, which is of course all I know, I was more relaxed. I really found myself coming into this retreat with a lot more of a clearer picture of my role in these events or in this discussion as a whole. The last retreat really taught me a lot. And so this retreat, I kind of walked into it with, I think, more sensitivity to the nuance and the timing of it, rather than thinking there was anything I needed to do or anything I needed to be. I definitely didn't have that same transition. That said, though, that nuance that I was aware of going into the retreat really expanded for me over that week. It really did dawn on me a number of times that when you do things right, people don't know you've done anything at all. And I was really trying to get a sensitivity for that, which means that there were times where normally I would have been right in the conversation where I actually took some time to self-reflect, do a little bit of my own work, and then came back where it was necessary, as opposed to where I would have thought it was necessary. I really did learn a lot in terms of humility and timing, as I did with the first retreat, for sure. But it is something that continues to deepen. And I know I was processing a lot of that. And so I just wanted to thank everybody, of course, who came, because you all embodied lessons for me in numerous different parts of my life. I was saying this to Andrew earlier today, that watching all of you go through your lessons really does resonate with so many of my deeper traumas. Like, to see each of you dealing with your own individual traumas, I recognize that's deeper stuff for me, that's still unpacking over many, many years. And it was so entertaining and heartfelt and kind of, well, it was emotional. I'm not gonna lie, I was straight up fucking emotional this week to watch all of you just surpassing all of your limitations and making such strides in ways that I know I can. And it really did inspire me. And I feel so very free just because of how strong all of you were and are, because that's all of us. We're all in this together. And you don't see it really any clearer than that when it's actually, being embodied in front of you as everybody's relaxed and just being where they are. And that is the reason that this week lasted so long, because I'm not going to lie, my life kind of feels like that most of the time, because I'm very present. I'm very excited to exist. That's really it. I'm very excited to exist. And so every moment is its own reward. And so you just get as much out of it as you can. But it's hard to do that with people who aren't there with you doing that. So no matter how much you might be slowing down time for your experience, people are just zipping past you in a mad rush to nowhere. And so it's so nice when you can actually just sit down to admire the sunset and have other people sit down with you. And that's the whole point. Just the witnessing of the sunset, because it's us and it's beautiful.
Amen. And that reminds me of just how much these weeks, we really don't plan things. We don't schedule things. It's not a rigid thing at all. There's lots to do, but nothing you have to do, or no schedule you have to follow. Like, we really want to create an environment where we don't have to always be looking at the fucking clock, looking at our fucking phone. Cause you get lost in a conversation. Like, if we had fucking on the hour, every hour shit, it'd be like, oh, I'm kind of want to get lost in this conversation. We have to go do this. It's like, maybe some people are going for a walk. It's like, oh, I'd rather, have this conversation. You keep having the conversation. Everyone comes back. It's like, it is how it goes. And people will hear that and they'll think, oh, so you guys just, you rent a lodge and you guys just hang out for a week. It's like, yeah, kind of. You don't want to do that? What exactly do you want to do? like, well, I want to get somewhere. It's like, where are you trying to get? Trying to get to a place where you can enjoy your experience. So why not just enjoy your experience? And the funny part of that is with that, and from an egotistical mentality, you'll think, oh, you're relaxed, you're hanging out, you're having fun conversations with people. Like, oh, that's just like so easy. Nothing's really happening, blah, blah, blah. And it's not that at all. Like through that state of relaxation, through that state of letting go, it's not to say that things aren't going to come up. And that's where I think the long-term benefits of these weeks really are, is that when you're in a state of relaxation, when you're in a state of letting go, just enjoying your experience, like that's when some of the shit is allowed to come up. Because when you're running around all the time, having your schedule, going through your day-to-day life, it's like you're really able to suppress those things, but they still kind of, I don't know, leak through, they slip through the cracks, and they're still a massive part of your experience. And so I think the long-term benefits of these weeks, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, is that through that state of relaxation, when you're actually able to face things, and certain substances help you see things maybe a little bit more clearly and deepen that state of relaxation, you're able to work through them. Like you're able to face them. You're able to actually let them go. So coming out of the week, it's not just a week in silo. It's not in a fucking vacuum. This is your experience. And everyone has a lot of shit that they have, deep down there that they have suppressed that can be scary for them to arise and deal with. But in a state that is very relaxed, in an environment where there's a bunch of people going through the same sort of thing, a bunch of people in that state of relaxation that also have shit that's coming up, and they're working through it. You're working through it. Everyone's working through their stuff while being relaxed, while having a good fucking time. Like then everyone's able to let go of those things. And then you come out of it and your life has changed. There isn't quite so much shit down there because you were able to spend a week actually attentive to where you were at. And so I think it really is one of the only ways to have the long-term impacts is to be able to spend an extended period of time in a place where no one's asking anything of you. No one's expecting anything of you. No one's telling you what to do. No one's telling you how to be. And in that state, you can actually see yourself for who you are because you're not getting pushed and pulled by society, by the environment so much. So I think that is one of the biggest takeaways I've had from this week, is just the necessity of that type of environment without so much rigidity, and how much of an impact it really can have when everyone's willing to go through it together, and the exponential impact that it has when it is in a group setting as opposed to just being by yourself. It really accelerates that process, and it was fucking magical to see.
Amanda.
I was chatting. I agree with you, Andrew, because I was telling a friend about my retreat, and she's like, "Oh, when are you going on another one?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to go on all of them." She's like, "Oh, that sounds great." And then I told her about the Netherlands. She's like, "Oh, that's enough time for me to get there." Then she's like, "What do you guys do?" I was like, "Oh, we just hang out." And she's like, and what else? Like, she's like waiting for me to keep going, and I'm like, we just chill, like we just chill for 9 days. She's like, "Oh, but you're going to be in Amsterdam. Like, if I go, I want to like leave for a couple of days." And I was like, "All right, you can do that, but I'm not going with you. Like, I hope like I go to this retreat to hang out with these people. And like, that's the goal. So mission accomplished. I'm not leaving to go do something else. That's a separate trip." And so I was getting into the fact that like, sometimes I have different social groups and they all do different things, and I don't need them to overlap. I don't need to go to, with my checker, buddies. I don't need to take them out, and go binge drinking if they're not drinkers, like there doesn't need, all my friends don't have to hang out, like I can do different things with different groups. But if you are going to come to this group, like I do want to make sure I set the right expectations that, if you leave, you're doing that as an individual. The all-inclusive price does not include side adventures. So you'd be paying for this, doing this by yourself, and I'm not going with you. And this is one of my best friends that I've been best friends with for almost 20 years. And I'm sure she was surprised by that answer, because usually I'm always down. I am always down to go. Her and I, we branch off. We always do our side thing. But I was like, you don't get it. I thoroughly enjoy spending quality time with these individuals because they are the dream. They are the goal. They are the point. And so I'm not going to leave that because that doesn't sound interesting enough for you. Then don't come. And I will go with you on another trip and I will give you all my attention because I love to give attention. But you're not going to force my hand to give it when I'm not ready. Because I'm telling you I'm doing A and you're talking to me about B. Like if you want to join A, that's fine. But don't fuck up A talking to me about B because we're not there. Or I'm not there. I'm going to let you know that I'm not there. So either, hop on board or wait for me to get back. It's very simple, but it's just people hear what they want to hear, and they want to make your experience their experience without thinking about you. So all of a sudden you become the side character in your own movie, and you're like, wait a fucking minute, I was just on the poster. When the fuck did I become? When did I even get to the bottom of the credit list? Like this is some bullshit. Like I invite you to be a guest on my fucking movie, and then you take over the movie. That doesn't make any sense. So, but I just wanted to jump on that because that literally just happened in the last fucking 48 hours. That I told somebody about the trip. They tried to turn it into. I'm like, let's rewind this, back it up. If you thought that meant do what you want, it does, but that also means without me. So do what you want without me. If you want to do what I'm doing, then that means doing what I'm actually doing. I don't know if you missed that part, but but I didn't. But it was just so great, and I'm just so happy. So be wary, people. If you invite your friends and family, they might try that shit. So be ready to enforce that boundary that they pretend is invisible.
Absolutely. Well said. This is actually something I would like to bring up as a result of everything that you just mentioned. We really do encourage everyone who's coming to this to make it about you, specifically you. This is your life. This is your existence. This entire event, whatever event it might be that you come to, is specifically created so that way you can make this about you. Everybody else is doing the same. So it's not that they're making it about you, they're making it about them, but that means you're free to have the space that you need to work on what you want to work on. If you want to talk to somebody, they're open and they're receptive. If you don't have to. Nobody expects anything of you. You can jump in any way you want or not at all. And we will applaud you and support you every step of the fucking way, because the whole point is taking off the weight. That's the whole point. So if you're going to come to these events, do so alone. And what I mean is that even if you're coming with someone be alone and give them the respect to allow them to be alone on this retreat. If you're coming with somebody that you're a partner with in terms of, being a couple, still be alone. You both deserve the time to have your own space. You both deserve the time to refresh your perspective of what life means to you, which will inform the relationship when you come back together at the end. It's not that you're not hanging out together, but you're not making each other the priority. You're making yourself the priority because you deserve that. We all deserve that to some degree. At least then we can be honest about what we want. At least then we can be honest about what we're doing or what we've habitually got caught up in. It gives us a chance to clear the field, to get a little bit of the distortion off the window so we can clearly see what our life is around people who are not judging their own lives. And so why would we? Especially given how many experiences everybody has. That's the beautiful part about these groups, is that everyone shares such incredible experiences, such incredible traumas, such stories of shit that they have faced and feared and conquered. And all you can do is sit there looking at all of your story and going, oh, fuck, I'm not the only one doing this shit. Because that's the point. You're not. We're all going through this. None of us know what the fuck we're doing. None of us know what the fuck we're doing. Why would we judge each other for that, except for need? And that's really all it comes down to. So why not get rid of that need? And let yourself enjoy your time with people who don't need anything from you and don't want to need anything from themselves. So we can all just be. That's all this is about. It's the only thing. It really is. That's the insight that really just hit me over the head repeatedly this retreat. People just need time to be. They're already what they want to be. They're just so caught up thinking that they're not, that they can't see it. And they don't need a reason to just be. You don't need a reason to just be. You're already doing it. That's the beautiful part. So why not just enjoy it as best you can?
Yeah, it really is an experience where you're together, but alone together. And I think that's a very important component, and understanding that allows you the space to have that experience with yourself, for yourself, as yourself. And that's really what allows you to connect with people as well. As soon as you're doing it, with someone else, for someone else, it's not really authentic anymore. There's always going to be some sort of narration, some sort of reason, some sort of thing that comes up as to why you're doing something, what you're trying to get out of it. Even helping someone, like even that is still you trying to get something out of the situation, trying to instill or inflict your will upon them and their experience. And that isn't what this comes down to. Like, helping everyone comes down to helping yourself and being yourself. And through that, it's like there's a different sort of energy to that experience through letting go of your idea of what you think you should be, because that'll allow people to recognize, there's nothing that I should be either. I can just be myself too. So like, and as Ray was saying, like, that's what hit me over and over. Cause like, as much as I go into these retreats very relaxed, there's still, plenty of insecurities that come up, plenty of thoughts, plenty of concern of like, how it's going at first. And then throughout the week, it's like, I start to see more and more, and through all of our guests doing the same, everyone there doing the same. Mark, Amanda, both of you being yourself, just being that, showed me that I can do that too. I can just be that, no matter what people expect of me going into it, or thoughts about me, or really, it's just me expecting things of myself at the end of the day. So letting go of that and seeing everyone doing that, and seeing the progress that everyone makes just from doing that, like, oh shit, you're teaching me as much as I'm doing anything there. And so it's cool to see that, and just to see the overlap of experience, and the ways that we have impact on each other when we don't even realize it too. It's another thing that hit me really hard, was like the amount of impacts that we're always having. It's like, we like to, get all concerned about that, and thinking like, trying to make sense of what's happening. It's like, it's already happening. Like, you're already just being you, and just living is having so much more impact than you can ever possibly imagine. But our brain likes to measure it. It likes to understand it. It likes to figure out what it is, calculate it, and all that fucking shit. And all that gets in the way of the reality of what's actually happening, which is just being you and allowing people to be them. And it goes back and forth every single day. I saw new examples of people just letting go of just being themselves, and it's fucking incredible to see. So yeah, thank you to both of you for everything that you brought to that retreat, and everyone else listening who is there, and everyone else coming to future ones. I thank you in advance for everything you're going to bring to everything that Dualistic Unity is moving forward.
Hell yeah. I just wanted to say, it reminds me so much of our episode on emotions and whatnot, how they really do indicate like where our borders are. And when we don't have those borders, we really do feel people in an entirely different way. And just like Amanda was saying, in terms of like different groups have different interests, this specific group really has an interest in authenticity, in just being, in insight, and being vulnerable. Like, there is a very specific conversation that we are having. Sure, that conversation affects everything. Sure, that conversation can apply to anything in our lives, but there is very much an underlying intention in this conversation, which is to let go, right? And even to let go of the concept of letting go, to just be, is really what this is all about. And so that's what these groups are. These little events where we get together, even the groups on Zoom, are really just like pockets of growth, because we all share this interest in growth. And so we're feeding off of each other's growth. We're being inspired by one another. And when we get torn down, somebody else relates to us, and they're like, I've been there. I get it. I'm no longer there, or I am, and I'm going to be okay. And we all remind ourselves, growth is not only possible, but it's constant when we're not in the way. That is the whole point of this. And so I just, it's so exciting to me to see the visual in terms of us getting closer or farther away from accelerated change. These groups are like walking into a room where you've just hit the accelerator. It really is an opportunity to just tear down your walls and see all of the nuance and all of the considerations that the rest of the time you're just running too goddamn fast to see. And inundated with all of that information, there immediately becomes it becomes uncomfortable. There's discomfort right away because you're so much more aware of everything that's always been there. But in that awareness, you can do something about it. You can look at it, you can face it, you can deprogram it, you can fucking tear the bottom out from underneath it because you're looking at it. And that's when the discomfort starts to fade. Not because you ran from it, because you faced it. Because you faced where it came from. It's the whole point. So I just love the fact that just through proximity, you are walking yourself closer to accelerated change because everybody around you is working on accelerated change. And you can't help but change by virtue of just being there. You really can't. You know, it was funny to me that even one of the people at the retreat who was not a guest, who was actually helping us out in some capacity or another, I think it was the second day, voiced, they were feeling us when they were trying to sleep. They could feel everybody in the house just kicking through insights. And this isn't a person who's often involved in this conversation, but they were aware it wasn't them. They weren't feeling their normal state of mind. They were feeling something collective. And that's incredible. It really is interesting. And you can feel it in conversations with people when there's just a lessening of pressure. You just relax a little bit. All of a sudden, everybody's more at ease and the conversation becomes more fluid. There's less thoughts about what do I say? What do I not say? What do they want me to say? What do I want them to think about me? There's so many fucking things in there that don't need to be. And that actually brings us to a question by somebody in our comment section of the live stream here. How do I just be in a conversation with someone? Don't try to be anything, right? Which doesn't mean that's easy. Your brain's going to consistently toss up things. Oh, maybe I should say that. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Yeah, this is the filter, right? That's what it is. It's you dabbling with your fears and your wants, right? That's why this is so difficult, is that you want something out of the conversation and you're afraid of something else out of the conversation. And that changes everything that you're doing. You have to walk into a conversation naked, not literally, but metaphorically. You have to walk into the conversation willing to just see what happens and understanding that you're not in danger. But in order to do that, you have to let go of what you want out of that conversation, because that's the danger. That's the risk, that you're not going to get it and you're not going to be happy. And there's so much riding on it that it's impossible to just be yourself, because being yourself doesn't always feel good. Being yourself doesn't feel certain, but it is like a dance. And the more you let go, the easier it is to dance.
Yeah, and I'll add real quick, and then I'll pass it to Mark, that going into that sort of conversation, just being yourself is just recognizing that nothing that happens means anything about your value whatsoever. That's what's helped me the most, is understanding that, oh, I can just be here. Whatever they say, whatever I say doesn't add anything to me. It doesn't take anything away from me. So once you start to understand that more clearly, it's a process and it's a practice. You know, it's something that not a lot of people are tuned into necessarily. It's not the dominant mentality of understanding that, oh, you know, this conversation doesn't mean anything about my value, no matter how it goes. But through understanding that, it allows you to just be yourself, because that's just what you are when you're not trying to be anything at all. And so if you're trying to derive some sense of value or fear that value being diminished in conversation, you're not going to be you, because you're going to be trying to be what you think is best going to be received. So that's not really being yourself, because you're caught up in following a narrative, following a idea of yourself that you feel like you have to live up to based on some made up expectation of what you think the other person is going to think of you based on what you say. And it's all illusion. It's all made up. So letting go of the concern for what any of it means about your value definitely helps. And with that, I will pass it to Mark.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. First thing, you know, when we all got there and first met, I mean, you did get, different impressions. Some were very quiet at first, some were very, very outgoing at first. So you think, oh, they have no problem in these situations, and of course you have these thoughts, when you're first getting acquainted with someone. But obviously, as we went on, we all discovered that very quickly that we all have the same problems, the same struggles, whether we're able to hide them or not. Everyone is struggling all the time. And it is so important. Something else that was mentioned and we said, and was a really big thing for me. And I even, mentioned this before the retreat, but, every time you push yourself, you're showing someone else that they can do it too. And that's one of the reasons I had so many great experiences, because I was seeing everyone else do it too. And we were all doing it for each other. As far as being authentic in a conversation, I actually had, and I was kind of embarrassed when I remembered it, but I remember actually having, some thoughts about how I wanted to present myself, at the retreat, how I wanted people to see me. And I very quickly forgot all about that, because the dynamic was just so open and vulnerable, and accepting that we all just pulled it out of each other, who we really were. And I would, once I started talking and just saying whatever came into my mind, instead of being like, no, don't say that now or whatever. Once I stopped thinking about it, I would get into a conversation and not even remember really what I said. And, I would have thoughts sometimes later, or the next day I'd be like, I should have kept my mouth shut. But then people would come up through the week and say, hey, you remember when Mark said this, or remember when you and I were talking about that? And it would be things I was like, when I had told myself that I shouldn't have said those things, that they maybe didn't sound right, or maybe it just, wasn't appropriate. I don't know, but you don't know. You don't know who you're being there for. You don't know. And all you have to do is work on yourself and do things for yourself, but you're giving to others at the same time. You don't have to make an effort. Just people will see it. They will see it. And it will be everything to them. You just don't have to make an effort. You definitely didn't there, but trying to continue that, in day-to-day life. And just remember, if I push myself and work on these things that I'm struggling with, and I really try, I'm going to show someone else they can do that too. And that's how those ripples get made, and they'll just keep growing and growing and growing. And I know that I can't just go out and share these just directly with anybody and they just get it right away or whatever, but that's not the point. The point is just showing that it's possible. And I know that those that know me, once I'm able to really, explain to them, what I've done, what I've been able to do for myself during this process and before it, since I've been part of this community and going forward, that, they're going to see, I've been the same way for a long time, and I'm very different now, and it's just going to continue, and I'm so excited. But that's going to speak all that I need to speak. I'm just going to keep working on that and sharing everything that I am with my friends and whoever else. I'm going to do my best. I'll still have my moments. I mean, that's just the way it is, and that's fine, because that helps. It really helps. There were times I had major things, and then I was questioning them the next day, and you just work through it. And it really amazed me how the activities that we did have, I mean, some of them seem so benign on the surface, just a group activity, but gosh, the work that was done during that. I mean, let's just karaoke, something I've heard so many times and written around and never would have done. But just that was one of the most significant experiences. And playing pool, you watched people drop things. And through the week, the fact that they weren't judged, they would start judging themselves, me included, on what they were doing. And even if you're trying to take a step, you're judging yourself so hard. But when you're not being judged by anybody else, it's I don't know, the strength comes in you, and it just builds. And then you're all doing it for each other. You're being there for each other. You're loving each other, and you're taking care of each other, and it just keeps unfolding. Just so beautiful. And like I said, even the most benign things had such meaning, because we were all there and we were just ourselves, and everyone there, from those that appeared to have it all together that first 5 minutes you met them, or you assumed or had this picture in your head, and that includes Ray and Andrew. We were all there together. It felt equal. It felt like we were all on the same journey, and will continue to be. And you just got to stop resisting. You just got to stop minimizing yourself. You've just got to stop doing that because it's not necessary. It's not necessary at all. You just have to make a decision. That's all you have to do.
And that's it. Do it for you. Do it for you because it means something. And for somebody else that it means something too, they'll see it. And there's nothing more meaningful than something that's derived from what means something to you. Can't force people to want to change. You can't force people to value their own life or their own existence, but you can value yours and show that it's an option. And that's it. It's not about converting anyone or convincing them of anything. It really isn't. It's just about being you. And if you really enjoy yourself, and I was going to say this quickly, I'm going to pass it to Amanda in a second. I think one of the things I enjoy about these retreats is the fact that I really get to exercise and practice something that personally, I think the spiritual community is lacking, which is just that authenticity, right? The fact that we're all just coming together. I don't know shit. We rented the place and we're making everything happen. And aside from that, we're learning from all of you. And I think that makes such a difference. Mark, you inspired me numerous times this week. And again, I always find it funny how often we'll say like, oh, I don't know if this has any value. And everybody's learning from us because they want to. So I appreciate you helping us create a fantastic retreat in general. I look forward to seeing you again very soon, my friend. Absolutely. Andrew, do you have anything you'd like to add or shall I pass it to Amanda?
Pass to Amanda. Just, hey, Jess, how you doing? Good to see you. We'll pass to
was also at the retreat and is joining us. So it's great to see you, Jazz. I'm going to pass it to Amanda. And then once she is done, we're going to move on to what your thoughts about the retreat were. Amanda.
Oh my God, Jazz. Hey, Jazz. So glad that you're here. All right. Got that out the way. All right. Mark, you were such an inspiration to me. Watching you stare at uncertainty felt like I was staring at uncertainty, which is what I experienced during the first retreat. And you said certain things and you felt like you were the wall, and then you felt guilty about being the wall. And it was just watching you. It was so trippy. It was so amazing. It was spectacular, man. It was just, you kicked ass. You kicked some serious ass. And it was so beautiful to watch. And it was so great to watch you process that ass kicking in the days that followed. And it resonated with me because I saw the value in that experience, in being okay with uncertainty, in being okay with not knowing. And that means making mistakes. That means falling on your face. It means that you're not gonna know what perfect words to say, but there is no best case scenario other than the one that you're in, because that's the one that you're feeling and living and embodying. And so it was just beautiful to watch you because I saw myself in you. And I am so glad that I was there to witness that, because it was a metamorphosis. You transformed and we transformed with you. It was individual, it was collective, it was a mashup. It was fucking incredible. I just love it because the thought that comes to mind, or the quote is like, be the change you wish to see in the world. It's like, yes, be the change, but be the life, be the choices, be the experience, be the switch up, be the changing of those choices. It's not just be perfect. In order to have a perfect world, we need to be perfect. And that's the change that we offer. It's that in our rawness, we show that it's not so black and white, and I wouldn't want it to be. I don't want to know everything. I don't want to have complete control, because that takes away from the spontaneity, that spontaneous beauty that you can only get by letting go and saying fuck it a little bit and having fun with it and not taking it too seriously. So it was just incredible. You made the retreat all the more special, just watching you, just being there by your side and cheering you on, and just it was so beautiful. And it was so beautiful to do that with everyone that was there, because we were all doing the work, and then we were all relaxing, we were all playing, and then we were all working, and then it was just, we were dancing, man. We were dancing for fucking many missions, just job well done, everyone.
Well said. Beautifully said. I think I like that change, because I've never heard it put in that way, the whole be the change you want to see in the world, and shifting it to like, just be the life, be the experience, be the enthusiasm. Like, it's kind of like just be the world, basically recognize that you're the world and just be that. Like, you've already made it. You're already there. You don't know the impacts that you're going to have through being it. And bringing up, Mark, you brought up pool, and real quick, and then I'll pass it over to Jazz. But with that hit me one day. And it's funny because that was one of our group experiences, group trips that people didn't feel like there was much felt. But for me, that was probably the most impactful one, which was interesting. And it was just from playing a game of pool. Like that's all it was. Super basic sort of experience, but it was so interesting because for so much of my life, I've been, involved in sports and competition and very much measuring your value based on how you perform on things. And that impacted me a lot. That was a big part of, things I dealt with was like that getting so caught up in measuring my value based on how I did on things. And so I still have parts of that. And I enjoy, playing games and competition, but it hit me playing those pool games, like, because I would get caught up in like, I really want to make this shot. I really want to make this shot. And then under like seeing myself from the hole, it hit me that that's not it. Like I'm having an experience here now. I'm getting caught in like wanting to do a quote unquote good job, wanting to play well, thinking that that's what this is all about. And it's not. It's about enjoying the experience, enjoying the fullness of the thing that you're doing. And so that day in one of the games, it just hit me like, I'm so focused on wanting this fucking pool ball to go in. And when I let go of that and started to see myself as everyone playing, everyone watching, everyone involved, I was like, me, Andrew performing really well may not be the best for this situation. And yet, so like, whether I make it or not, it's happening perfectly. And so I let go in that moment of wanting things to happen in a certain way. And yeah, it's not to say that I'm like, closing my eyes and not setting up and not doing all that shit, but I let go of the desire for any specific outcome to happen. And it was like so much dropped in that moment. And it was like, it impacted me. That was probably halfway through, and it impacted me for the rest of the retreat. It was just from that on a trip everyone is on. We're like, yeah, I'm not really feeling a whole lot. I'm like, I'm not necessarily feeling a whole lot, but that was very impactful for me. And it's funny how caught up we get in thinking we know where something's going, the way that it should happen. And it's applicable to everything in life. It's just experience. It's just about going through it. You don't know where it's leading. You don't know where it's going. You don't know what's best for you. So just be there for it and enjoy the experience as best as you can along the way.
Well said. And I'd like to say that mentality carried over into our game of Yahtzee later on in the week. Was it 7 or 8 Yahtzees that were thrown in that game? That was fun. That was a lot of fun. But again, not trying to get anywhere, right? Not trying to win, because it doesn't matter. You're already winning in the experience that you're having. So there's nowhere else to go because you are being yourself. Isn't that funny? Jazz, so glad that you could join us. We were sharing our experiences of the retreat earlier in the episode. Would you like to share some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I would love to. I was actually just coming back from burning my face off with a laser. And so I just got my usual ice cream on the way, cherry chocolate and Ferrero Rocher. In case anyone's curious, anyone who's watching, I've got a very chocolatey taste. I was listening to parts of the episode or the live stream while I was on the bus. I didn't have any AirPods on me, and I was kind of feeling sad about that. I was like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. I really want to hear these guys' thoughts. So I turned up the phone a little bit, put it next to my ear. I've never done that before, by the way. Never. And I didn't even think twice about it. It kind of just happened. And yeah, so I was just walking around with like my face was like super red. It's like not as red right now, but it was super red. And I went in to get the ice cream, talked with the person for like quite a bit of time, and she was telling me about her eye appointment. And honestly, we got into a really amazing conversation, and I was just feeling so much love and so much empathy and so much presence in that moment. Like I didn't need to be anywhere, that I'm fully here, and I'm fully here to like listen to you and just have this conversation. And while I was coming back, I had this thought in my head, which was like, and that thought occurred to me during the conversation with that person as well, which was she was telling me something, and I instantly said, "Well, I really hope you feel better." And the thought that occurred to me was, well, she didn't finish her story. Did you cut her off because you didn't want to listen to any more of that? And normally when I would do that, I would be like, try to justify myself, like, no, I really did want to listen, blah, 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 blah. And as soon as I had that thought after I finished the conversation, I was like, what the fuck? That's fucking hilarious. And this is a huge fucking lesson I've learned from the retreat, is that when I first came into the retreat, I was having a lot of thoughts about the conversation I was having, whether or not I found the conversation interesting, how I could contribute to the conversation. And oftentimes also I was so stuck in my head that I was thinking about feeling my self-worth diminishing because of how I wasn't saying anything, because of how much I was thinking. So I wasn't able to keep up with what people were saying, so I wasn't really listening, and that was making it more difficult to actually have a conversation. And so what I did during the retreat was just like not listen to my thoughts, which oddly enough worked very fucking well. And ever since then, I've just been having fewer and fewer thoughts, or maybe having thoughts or not having thoughts. It really doesn't fucking matter, because I'm just like not paying as much attention to them. It's kind of just happening in the background. And if I look at them, that's fine. If I don't look at them, that's fine. Yeah, that's something I mean, I have like a million different things I could share about the retreat. But I guess that should get you guys going.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's very much the experience of understanding that the soundtrack of your ego or your brain trying to process context never stops. It's always there, and it's always whatever perceptions it needs to go through, especially if they're perceptions that you've been avoiding, which I think is why fear so often pops up. It's because those perceptions are always there, but we run from them. And the more you run from something, the more of your attention is on it, which is kind of contradictory, but very true. The more you try to avoid your fear, the more you're building it, right? And so all of a sudden, if you're like, right, I could be afraid, and that's it, I could be afraid, and that's it, it's just an option, and you can put it down and pay attention to what you're doing, regardless of what the fear is doing in the background. It just takes practice to understand that you can do that, that you can, look up while you pedal the bike, that you can look at where you're going as well as turn the handlebars, that kind of thing. Like, we keep looking at the tire thinking that we need to, not understanding it's going to continue to roll. We have to focus on where we're going.
Yeah, letting go of the idea that we have to cling so tightly to them and think that letting them go is going to mean that there's almost like this fear that we're not going to exist or continue on if we let go of paying so much attention to that. And yeah, I think I've never heard you say that bike example, but that's pretty much it. It's like we have to be watching, the chain and the wheels and make sure the pedals are moving. And it's like, no, those are all happening. They're already happening. And they're the process of you moving, but they're always going to be there. And actually lifting your head up and looking around, as opposed to like being so caught inside and focused on the process of things, just fucking processing. As we let go of that, like, we can actually start to see that it's optional. That's all it is. It's an option. Doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, but certain options have more consequences than others. Certain options are things we've gotten familiar with. Certain options are things that, we know what that path leads to, but it's scary to take that leap. Of course it's scary. When you've never done something before, when you've lived in a way that's very much the opposite end of the spectrum, watching the chains and the wheels, it's like, all right, they're still moving, but you keep crashing at the same time. So maybe it's not just about them moving. Maybe it's about maintaining that awareness. Maybe it's about understanding that you can have the experience, you can be where you're at, you can be involved in the conversation, and things will come up for you to say, having that faith that things will work perfectly as they always are. And your concern isn't so necessary. All that our concern really ever does is gets in the way, causes that bike to crash when we're so focused on the fucking wheels and the chains. And that's what we're doing so often. We're so caught in, trying to figure out and getting a solution, getting to a place in which people understand us very, very clearly and say the right thing. And it's just not necessary. You can let go and look forward. You can look around you, just be attentive to where you're at and understand that, it's working out, whether you think it is or not. But yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going
Jazz.
to pass it to Jazz.
So I was thinking, as I sometimes tend to do, that that someone who's watching this live stream would probably love an answer that is more geared towards the overall experience of the retreat. And something that came to mind, that has been consistently coming to mind since I came back from the retreat, is just how much love I felt during the retreat. It's actually kind of incredible. Like, there were so many times during the retreat that I would just look at someone and literally start getting tears from how much love I was feeling. And it kind of amazed me. And I think part of what was happening was that I was just recognizing the awareness that is me in them. And it was happening in all of these things that we were doing together and all these shared experiences. Like when we were playing pool, it never felt like I was on a team playing pool against someone else. It felt like I was playing, it either felt like I was playing pool with myself, or that, I don't know, it's hard to explain, honestly. It's kind of just something that has to be experienced for real. But it was so relaxing, and it always felt like I was cheering for every single shot and feeling so much appreciation for every single shot. It never felt like any shot that was made left anything to be desired, because there were no expectations. And when you let go of those expectations, then you really start to see the beauty in every single shot that has so much attention paid to it. That's what makes it beautiful. And another experience that came to mind is just like being out on nature walks and seeing all the beauty and sharing what you're seeing with someone else, and someone else also appreciating that in the same way, or not necessarily in the same way, but showing appreciation nonetheless because they're seeing it too. And the thing is that so often I'm out on walks, like I live in Vancouver, so there's a lot of beautiful scenery here. And I often go out on walks with friends, and quite often I will be the only person stopping. Everyone else will just be trying to get to the destination. And even if I do stop and they do stop, they're waiting for me. So I feel like I'm starting to become a burden on the entire situation of us trying to get somewhere. And I still take my time. It's okay, like that's still part of the journey. Also recognizing that I don't need to and all that stuff. But it is very fucking nice when you can stop and everyone stops and time stops and you're just there.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm appreciating the sentiment, because it's very much about what the retreat's all about. You'll notice that day after day, the retreat really is about everyone recognizing we're not trying to get anywhere. I love that transition, because everybody comes to the retreat thinking, I'm going to get out of my shit. And then by the end of the retreat, you're like, I got this shit. And that's all it is. That's really the only difference, is that it goes from, I got to get away from this, to kind of let them go through that. Because your perspective changes about what you're able to handle. That's really it. It's not about trying to get away from the suffering so much as putting it in context, recognizing the other half that's there and sitting in the middle, dabbling on either side without fearing them or needing them. And so I'm very grateful that you brought that up, because I thought that was very much what the retreat was this time and last time, though I didn't notice it as quickly last time. It was the recognition, like, right, we're just here to be here. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's on a walk or, playing pool, and I loved that because I felt very similarly in the games of pool, just like cheering for everyone. It's like someone makes an awesome shot. It's like you don't even know if they're on your team or not. You're just like, fuck yeah, awesome shot. And that's because that's what it's all about. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to be so enthralled with fucking competition and everything all the fucking time, because competition is bred from that mentality of needing to measure your value. Like, I have to win, and if I don't, then my value drops, and if I do, my value gets raised. And it's not about that. It's just about enjoying the experience, because there isn't, you can to a degree, but you can't really fully enjoy the experience and be so caught up in what's going to come of it, what it's going to mean about me, where this is going to go. And it's the same for the walks. It's funny that people even go on walks, and I know this because I've done this, and I know lots of people who do it. Like, they'll go on walks, like desiring it for it to be over almost, or like trying to get through it. And they're using it. Sometimes people use it as exercise or whatever and focused on that. But it's like, it's like, you're still getting the fucking exercise. You can enjoy it while you're doing that as well. And so that's really, as Ray said, that's one of the coolest shifts to see, is the shift in everyone's perspective of what they're going through, going from trying to overcome it, trying to get rid of it, trying to get through it, to building enough faith in themselves to recognize that they can handle it no matter what else comes up. Because it's like, okay, yeah, you got some shit you're trying to work through. Sure, you get through that. But if you've only focused on that, if you haven't built a base, if you haven't understood where that comes from, what mentality that is stemming from, then shit's just going to keep coming up. Yeah, you can utilize a retreat in order to, overcome maybe something specific, a specific situation you're going through and whatnot. But if you're focused on just that, as opposed to letting go and letting go of your concern for yourself and what everything means about you, it's going to keep coming up in different ways, shapes, and forms. And I think that's the beauty of the shift in the retreat. It's like, people are learning how to fish instead of just being fed fish. And so that's why I'm so fucking confident coming out of it. It's like, there was a lot that went down here and a lot of shifts made. And I have more, confidence in everyone, but also myself coming out of it. Like, yeah, I can handle whatever comes up. And that's a beautiful experience to go through, especially with a group of people who are feeling the same way.
Damn right. I'm immediately reminded of Terry Pratchett's quote that, light a man a fire, he'll stay warm for the night. Set a man on fire, he'll stay warm for the rest of his life.
I love that one. Amanda, that's to you.
I love what you guys are saying. It really did feel like being at the center of love, and like you didn't have to look for it because you were just engulfed by it. And I think we were so engulfed because all we did was focus our time and focus our energy and attention on that moment. So time didn't exist because we didn't feed it. It couldn't exist. It wasn't in our view. What was in our view was every single pull shot. So when you cheered for being in that moment and that victory, whether you were the one who made the shot or on that person's team or on the couch watching it, you felt like that was your victory because it was so well shared. And even when we didn't make a shot, that was great too, because it gave us a chance to not take things too seriously. So whether we made it in or we didn't make it in, it was a fucking victory. It was a win. And it was something that was just effortlessly shared because we all chose to do the same thing, pay our attention into that moment. And that's where we found all the value. And so there was no need to look anywhere else. There was no need to be perfect. And even when you got caught up in thinking, oh, Andrew was killing it. You were killing it. It was like, oh shit, that's a pretty good shot. I wonder if I could do that. And it's like, yeah, you definitely can do that. And so you just instantly let it go because it just didn't matter, because what mattered most was the experience. And, so many times I see people going on vacation and they come back and they're almost more miserable after their vacation because they weren't there there. It was just a means to an end. The walk is a means to being healthier, to having tighter muscles. The pool is a means to being victorious, to being a competitor, to being a winner. Everything is a means to an end. And that's why you don't enjoy it, is because you see the process as empty and the destination as full, but we were the process. And so it felt so full because we filled it. And that was just incredible to feel and to be a part of. And so it just couldn't have happened any fucking better than I could have imagined. It was just better than a dream come true, because my dreams are limited to me. And the experience that we had superseded anything I could have imagined alone, because I wasn't alone. I was there. I was with you guys. We weren't one, we were fucking in it, man. And it was marvelous. So thank you guys. I'm hooked. I'm a junkie, just I will be here for as many retreats as they are. I don't see a better way to spend time than with all of you.
We really appreciate that. We really do. And it's because it's so funny, because for so long, especially when you're going through the process of ego development or ego dissolution, ego death, as long as you're trying to get out of your hell and your ego is what I'm saying. It's always so hard. It seems so hard. Like you're trying to work through shit, put it down, doing all that, not recognizing that the journey you're holding on to is what's hard. Not recognizing that the journey to self-awareness is what's limiting your self-awareness, because it's a journey to self-awareness. So there's pressure, and it doesn't need to be. And if you just let that go, you're still processing. Like you're still awareness. There's nowhere to go. You're just getting in the way, and insights continue to happen whether you're there driving them with a whip or not. That's the point. But the more you're driving your insights with a whip, the more they're being driven by need, which distorts them. It makes it hard to learn. And so I find it so very interesting that, again, at the retreat, it really is just about not putting in the effort to be divided. It's about not putting in the effort to try and cope with shit, about not creating more out of the monster that could be a tiny bunny. Because that's what it is when we're not paying attention to it. It's harmless. But as soon as we give it teeth, it's got teeth.
And that's the effort, right? We're feeding the beast. It takes a lot of energy to feed that beast, and it gets bigger and stronger, and we just keep fucking feeding it because we think that's where our values derive from. And if we stop fucking feeding it, it would kind of wither away. And it's not to say that it dies, not to say that it isn't there, but it's a fuckload weaker. It's a fuckload smaller. It's still there. It's still a thing. It's still something you can utilize, but now you're able to utilize it as opposed to it utilizing you, as opposed to it taking you over. And so it's funny how really it is a lack of effort that allows for that state to be found. So it means you got to let go of getting anywhere. It means you have to let go of the path, of the journey, of the idea that you're becoming something. It's the idea that you're becoming something, or that you think you should become something, that's causing you all the fucking suffering. And so that's the beauty of these weeks, is that it's a place in which everyone's in a, not like, it's not like everyone's thinking the same way, but everyone's just working on themselves in the same. And so through that, it's the same way, but it's not the same, like, belief or whatever. It's just going through shit on their own, letting go themselves, seeing other people doing it, being like, oh, can I really do this? Like, oh, everyone else is doing it. It's kind of like good peer pressure. That's the thing, like positive peer pressure. It's like, oh, can I really let go of this dude? Can I really step into this? Oh, I just saw them step into this, and they're not telling me to step into it, but I saw them do it. And so that gives me the, faith to do it as well. And so it's like passive, positive peer pressure. There we go. The 4 P's. Jazz.
Like on a tree, every leaf is growing, but they're all growing differently. They're all still growing, right? It's not about which leaf is growing better, because they're all attached to the same tree. They're all benefiting the same thing, each other, whether they recognize it or not. Jess.
I loved what you said, Amanda, about how some people have returned from their vacations more depressed than when they when they went on it. And it's funny you mentioned that because this was something on my mind as well during the retreat, because it literally felt like heaven. Like I was when Ray said that to me, I was questioning that, and no, it felt like heaven. It like no question about it in my mind at all. And the question on my mind was, what happens when this ends? What happens when I go back home? And the first day, or like the last day of the retreat, when no one besides the four of us were at home or at the lodge. Funny how I called it home, yeah. I was so sad. I was really sad. And then on the bus ride back as well, I was super sad and tired. So I'm glad we got that nap. But yeah, I was really sad. And uh, now that I've gotten back, I am super fucking ecstatic. Like I have been feeling so much love and so much joy and so much bliss. And I have been organizing like different hangouts with different friends. I've been sending messages to so many different friends. I've been communicating with a lot of the people on the retreat and just like communicating, getting to know how they're doing. And it's so funny how I was I've been using like a lot of different like very lovey emojis, and a thought that occurred to me is that a particular friend in mine, I wasn't sure if she would appreciate that because she might think it's like fake because of her perspective and her vision of things. So I thought she might not think of it as authentic. And I saw a message on the Dualistic Unity server that quoted Ray saying, "I'm not here to be nice." And that's exactly how I felt. I'm not here to be nice. I'm not using these emojis to be nice. This is just how I feel. And I'm just using them because I can. And yes, I really appreciate how it feels like the retreat changed us, and it doesn't feel like there's a lack.
Well said. Yeah, I feel very similarly. I think that was a noticeable feeling coming out of the last one as well, is that, you know, it's an incredible time at the retreats. There's very much an aspect of me that doesn't want to leave, but at the same time, it's like we're ready to get back into shit, get ready to get back to applying things. And so it's kind of, we found like a sweet spot of, you know, enough time to work through shit and really, really fucking enjoy it and be ready to step back into the rest of your life and get back into things and get into, you know, situations where people aren't quite in the same mentality, maybe not as willing to question, and kind of test the waters there and really explore those situations. And so it's beautiful to hear that this time around as well, that it's a similar feeling, similar thoughts coming out of it. That's like, yeah, it's a tough place to leave, but also there's a excitement to stepping back into society, back into reality. And I very much feel the same. Oh, Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to just whenever you were talking about you know, not you don't necessarily have to get in and direct everything. You know, I had one particular night early in the retreat where, you know, I had a lot of significant, you know, things come up on one evening, and very, very well, extremely significant things, you know, things that I very easily could have sat and pondered for days and just dissected in a million different ways and gone back in my past and try to draw these outlines and all this and that. And, you know, when I woke up I went to bed before I was able to do that night, and I was super tired, so I didn't have any trouble going to sleep. But when I woke up, as soon as I opened my eyes, I thought, okay, you know, I remembered everything that happened the night before and all the things that had come up. And I thought, okay, so what I would normally do is just get busy in my head, picking things out, trying to go through it, just manually working on it, trying to think as much as I could about it, think about everything I could relate to it. But I just, I kind of, I guess I just kind of thought, I don't know if I can, I didn't manually bring it up. I just recognized it and experienced it and didn't run from it. And everyone there sat with me as I looked at it. And so when I woke up, I thought, how do I start this day? What do I do at this point? And I thought, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to go downstairs and I'm just going to just see what happens, but I'm not going to I'm not going to like stay in my room longer or stay in the shower longer, or I'm going to try to avoid everybody for a while, or I need to cook with this for a while. I'm just going to go downstairs. And I remembered a book that has been recommended several times, and it's and I had downloaded it the day before because it wasn't there. But we had talked about it, and I knew that it was a very short book, a book that had a seemingly easy to read story. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to start my day just by reading this book. I know it's not, incredibly complex or long, and I'm just going to have some coffee and read this book. And that's what I did. And then I just flowed with the day. I didn't stop at any point and make a concerted effort to exert my thought powers on it. But and then, toward the later afternoon, we went on a very long walk. And again, I tried to be on the walk. I wasn't actively trying to think, but it truly, as I just was with everyone and just, just doing whatever, felt right in the moment, but not making any efforts to do or dissect or do anything else. It really was truly, the word was used, but that's what it felt like. It really was unpacking in my head by itself. I just had to sit back and still just be where I was, be here, not get lost in my thought. And I'm getting to where I've noticed so many times over the last few months, and that realization that's, continually being reinforced is how absent I was from everything, because I was always trying to think everything to death. Sometimes I even wonder how I heard anything anybody said to me at all, or even followed a TV show or anything, because now when I catch myself thinking, it's so much more acute or acutely obvious that I have no idea what's going on when I'm lost in my head. If I look down at something for a minute, my phone or whatever, and there's someone's talking, or there's something, an actual something I'm watching, whatever, I totally lose it, so I'm just so glad that I have been learning that, and that I was able to exercise that on that day, and throughout the retreat, but especially that day, because I didn't need to. I just needed to be here and appreciate where I was, appreciate those I was with, appreciate those that were around me, and just be, and things were working themselves out. It just did, and it just kept it would get clear, and certain things would just come to my head, but then I would look at it and I would recognize it and I would just say, okay, and I just kept walking. But it really was a thing, and that was a really important lesson that I learned. Again, is that you don't have to think everything to death, and I think that has added so much to my life alone. Just being able to not do that, and have it be so much easier to not do that. And because all I'm doing when I'm doing that is adding on more stuff to dig through. I'm just making it more complex when it doesn't necessarily need to be. So that was really big. And back to the pool thing, I would sit back and watch so many times, and when we were playing games, and we were on teams and such, but we all worked on all the shots together. We all made all the shots together. If I've ever played pool out in public with my friends, I'm always so embarrassed and skittish, and like, oh my God, it's my turn again. Oh my God, if I'm the worst player, I'm this and that, and they're all thinking this. And, I didn't feel that at all. I had already really blown myself away with a few things already. And by pool time, I was just like, just walked up there and did it. And I wasn't scared. I didn't care if I made it or not, but I wanted to. I tried and everybody was helping me, but I didn't know. And if I didn't, I was fine. And I just helped everybody else. I even told a couple of people, I'm like, I apologize, but your partner doesn't care if you lose it or not. So I don't know if that's an asset to you, but that's how I felt. But I think we all felt that way. It was like we were all working together. We were all wide-eyed children looking at this game and trying to figure it out together and just experiencing it. And you didn't care about the end of the game. You didn't care about what the end standing was. It was just fun going through the process together, us all working together, approaching a scenario and everybody giving their thoughts. And that's how it should be, just experiencing, taking it in, sharing our observations with each other, and just going with whatever happens. And that was so true. It was so profound. It was really something. That's just what I wanted to share.
Hell yeah. I want to say very quickly that I think one of my favorite insights from this week was from you. And oddly enough, it's the same insight that you've had numerous times, which was that you can just put it down. But what I enjoyed about the conversation that we had was that you were staring at the decision to pick it up over and over and over again. And you just kept coming back to the realization that you didn't have to. And my favorite question from you is, well, why would I do that? Why do I keep doing that? And it's just because we don't recognize we have that choice. We don't even recognize what we're doing. We just immediately reach for it because we always have. But as soon as you see it, as soon as you relax enough to actually stare it in the face, it tears you right to the ground. That's why I like the Gospel of Thomas. Seek and ye shall find. When you find, you shall be troubled. You shall be troubled and you shall marvel over everything. But you will be troubled first. And that's the point, is that at first, it hits you right in the face that a lot of the suffering is self-perpetuated. And you don't have to do it. You just thought there was some benefit to doing so. And we all did. And it really is just easy to put it down when you see it. And I was so very proud of all the work you did at this retreat, Mark. I know it's not about me being proud, but buddy, you inspired me every day. And we're so grateful that you came. And I'm really looking forward to listening to you continue to unpack everything that you saw and everything that you're embodying. By the last day, man, you looked so relaxed. It was exactly what I wanted for you and for myself, because I've been wanting to hang with you for the last 4 months that we've been chatting.
Yeah, I told you this at the retreat, Mark, but looking at what you looked at that night and how you responded to it and how you handled it is as good as I've seen anyone ever do so. And staring at, eternity, reality of what you are in the face, and being able, as you said, you went to sleep, you woke up the next day, and just making that choice to just come downstairs and face it after being kind of rocked like that. It is a powerful fucking experience to see the depths of what you are, and to come back and just come back to what you inevitably come back to after seeing that is, yeah, but I'm still here now. And what am I going to do with it? What can I do with it? I can go read this book that I'm thinking about reading. I can go get a coffee and sit on the couch and read it. And that's all it is. It's like, it changes everything, but it also doesn't change anything. And so I'm curious kind of about that experience. Maybe this is more so for Ray, but for anyone on the table with that experience of, staring at the abyss, the avoid and whatnot, the void, the avoid. That's funny. But because I went through a similar experience at the last retreat. And since then, I've seen it a few more times, but it's never been like the first time. And it almost seems like the first time can knock you on your ass. Like, it's so jarring, so intense. But I've seen pretty similar things probably a handful of times. I saw it probably twice at the retreat this past time. And there's every time it's like there's more comfort. So do you think that it's like I'm trying to, I guess my question is is it a one-time thing, or is it a one-time thing that is unraveled through more until it's like you're ready to see it again more and then it can be jarring again? Or is it typically like really jarring and then like unraveled, if that makes sense?
It makes sense. I understand what you're asking for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that it really depends on the work you do in between. So what I mean is that if you catch it, you see it, and you go, all right, I'm going to be informed by that rather than I'm going to run from it. I don't like it. That was entirely caused by such and such. I was just making it up, losing my mind, all that shit. You just run from it, right? And then all of a sudden you'll go full circle, try and commit yourself to more illusions, trying to prop yourself up. Bam, you'll hit it again. And now it's just as shocking, if not more so, because you ran from it or you just didn't cultivate it. And that is very much it, is that if you're not cultivating it, then the next time it's going to hit you hard again. You know, this is what I was saying when we recorded our episode on mushrooms, that there was some ray that accumulated, regardless of the fact that I'm always cultivating that, right? So you can imagine if I wasn't in any way paying attention to my own growth, in any way paying attention to the weight that I'm carrying habitually, would have been so much more distortion, right? And so that first trip would have been so much harder as a result of that, because it's not the abyss that scares you. It's your opinion of the abyss, which is based on your opinion of you, right? That's the point. Staring at it by itself, you're just like, huh. And it's incredible. Like you're just inspired and full of insight and enthusiasm and joy. Like the experience of being everything is fucking incredible. Your opinion of being everything is terrifying. And that's really what you're letting go of, is your opinion of it. So that way you can see more. And then that will scare you. And then you'll let go and you'll see more. And that's all that you're doing, is just working your way through the fear of what you already are, right? Letting go of your opinion of it, because you've always been it. It's just that suddenly you're becoming more aware of what you've always been. You don't have to panic. Nothing has actually changed, although everything has changed.
Chaz.
That is an interesting question. So I appreciate you asking that, Andrew. I feel like I looked into the void a few times the past retreat, and one of them was, funnily enough, the same night that Mark did, and it was at the time that we were at the table, and I was just looking at the wine glass, and then yeah. I think it comes down to how attached you are to what you think reality is, and your idea of what reality is. And as things have been unfolding in my life, I have let go of a lot of what I think reality is. At this point, I don't see this this as necessarily the only thing that's happening. And I think as you let go of those ideas, it becomes a lot easier and more comfortable to be in that space. And I've even like kind of stopped labeling it as the void or anything like that, like not giving it any labels, because I feel like it gives the impression that there isn't more to it. Like you've seen it, and now that, like, that's it, you've seen it. But there's so much more to it, and I think it can be a source of comfort to say that you've seen the void or been the void, when really there's so much more to the void, so much more than you've seen. And I think it helps to let go of any attachment to what you think is happening, and to just see what's happening whenever it is happening. And it can be, honestly, it can be pretty fun. I was having fun with it in the retreat.
Yeah, that's well said. I appreciate that, Jazz. And another interesting component is that each time it's been different. Like it's been a different experience. Like the first time for me, it was very much just like kind of like staring into space and just trying to find an end. And it just, there was no end. So I was kind of just like eyes wide open, mouth wide open, just staring at it and not being Andrew for a while, like very much having let go of that. But each time it's been a little bit different, and I'll get glimpses of it through just like very clearly seeing myself in someone else. It's stemming from letting go of believing that I'm Andrew, which, to your point, Jazz, believing that this reality is what I think it is in any way, shape, or form. Because as soon as you think this is so set and sturdy and finite, and you can be certain about it, anything else that you see is like, oh, that's scary. That's very concerning. That is different, so drastically different from the idea I have of what this is. But one of the times during the retreat, I was at one of the nights we had a bonfire, and I was just kind of sitting there, and we had done a little bit of mushrooms, a little bit of weed, and honestly, like, weed gets me there way more often, than anything else, which is, I find, fascinating. But I was staring at it, and I just kind of like dropped back into exploring reality, like within myself. But I knew, I was both aware that I was just kind of like very still, like I was not moving a muscle, staring at the fire, and just kind of like dropped back into things. And I was seeing through these eyes as almost like I compared it to, at an aquarium, like those bubbles that kids crawl into, and they're like seeing things. It's like they know they're not in the water, but it almost feels like they are. But there's like a lens there. That's what it felt like. And so I was just kind of exploring reality through in my mind, but also maintaining the recognition that I'm still here now at the bonfire there, but like I also wasn't at all. And so it was interesting. And with that, like, that would have fucking scared the shit out of me. And I probably would have, because in that experience, like, I feel super high. Like, I feel like my head is 10 feet above my body. Like, that's the sort of feeling that I get. And so that feeling is what I used to run from. And so it's been interesting, just as I smoke more weed, basically, and experience that more, how often it's like, I'll go through some insecurities, I'll feel a certain way, and I'm like, I don't know about this. This is pretty uncomfortable. And when I was younger, I would run from that. I would resist that every single time. So I was never able to get through that to whatever's left after that experience. And more, I'm starting to see, like, that pretty much always happens to me. Whenever I smoke, whenever I get high, it's like insecurities get thrown in front of my face. It's like, here they are. You want to face them, or you want to run from them again or resist them. And every time I go through them and I face them, there's something on the other side. There's some sort of fucking deep ass experience on the other side of that, of just being reality, being God, and in different ways, shapes, and forms. Sometimes it's like seeing myself as fully connected with everything, seeing myself in everyone I'm around, or going through sort of like a disassociative experience. Someone may perceive it as that, but it's shown in so many different ways, which I've always, I don't know, I'm starting to find very interesting, just how you can see it in different ways. And the more you see it, the more you realize that it's fascinating, but it also doesn't change anything. Like, you're still here now, but there's definitely a benefit to seeing it. And if you can not have fear in it, but not be so concerned about the fear that you have going through it, as you go through that, it's like, okay, I can handle this. And it's healthy, I think, for people to see that, because so many of us are so caught in thinking that things are certain, thinking this reality is exactly what we think. And when you realize that it isn't, you don't take it quite as seriously, and you're able to, have a little bit more fun with this, whatever this reality is.
Well said. Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about the reason that cannabis hits you the way it does, as opposed to other substances, in the Patreon call, which we're going to do in 15 minutes. But we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to pass it over to Amanda so she can share her last insight with us. And then I'm going to remind everybody about the event in August, which I obviously just did now. So I got ahead of myself, and I'll shut up and pass it to Amanda.
Thanks. I I feel more comfortable looking into the void because now I view thoughts or fears as like a ship, and uncertainty is like this deep, dark sea, and I'm always on it. And sometimes I hop off the boat and into the sea, and then it just, the uncertainty can engulf me and encapsulate me. And then it can feel like I'm drowning, or it could feel like I can keep swimming down below, but then you have to come back up for air. And so we swim back to the ship, we recharge, and then we go back into the sea as explorers. And you don't always know what the adventure is going to be, but it's okay because the ship changes. And so I will be on a ship of anxiety, and then it'll change while I'm on it. Now we're in a ship of confidence. Now we're in a ship of relaxation. And so it's so fun to just watch that the vehicle that you're in is changing as you're having the experience. So when you're in the sea of uncertainty, it doesn't feel as scary as it used to be, because you've let go of the attachment that you know what the sea will hold, you know what the ship's ride will be like. It'll be a smooth ride or it'll be a rough ride, and you just have this expectation because it's just tied to an attachment. But ultimately you're just on a ship. It is the thoughts, it is the feelings, it is the insecurities, and as you're on the ship is changing because you are it. And then as you explore, you learn, and then you go back to the ship. And I don't want to get rid of my ship. I have many more adventures to be on, so that was my final thoughts.
Thank you, Amanda. As always, just get involved with your voyage. Don't judge it. Don't worry about where it's going. The point is the voyage in itself. So don't make it overly complicated. And if you have problems just getting into what your experience is, definitely reach out to us. These groups are a great chance to kind of wade through your stuff. And other than that, join us face to face in any of these retreats. We will find a way to find you so you can just be yourself around us, and we can watch it because we love to do so. Thanks so much for joining us for this roundtable. We will see everybody on Patreon in about 15 minutes. And aside from that, we'll be releasing an episode on cannabis in the next day or so that we recorded last week. See you soon, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.